Quick before this video begins, I want to mention I do have a Notify Me account. Notify.me/Spechiee, links in the description. It's just for if you want to be notified if or when I upload a video or go live on Twitch. Follow, thanks. Anyway, enjoy the video. Living alone is scary, okay? Most people my age are living in a dorm with other people their age, but I was fortunate enough to be able to afford my own apartment and live on my own. Now, I consider it a blessing, but back in the beginning, I was kind of scared to be completely alone, and I'll tell you why. Number one, I live in a pretty messy town, lots of crime, and it has super unsafe areas, so I was nervous about being alone in an apartment as a 5'7" fat woman. My apartment is second story, so that's nice, and more secure compared to other places in my town. Still, it made me nervous to even leave alone for the first couple months. I refused to bring out the trash without my boyfriend around because I was just nervous about being on my own. When I live with my family, I never go anywhere alone, and back then I lived in a way better town than the one I'm in at this moment in time. Back then, I'd have to literally buy my sister something to get her to come with me because that's how nervous I was about going alone. So you can imagine just how freaked out I was going anywhere alone when I moved to a new town where I knew no one and still know no one. A town, mind you, that has one of the highest crime rates in the state I live in, so that's fun. I used to not be able to go to the store alone, but now I have to. If I need food and my boyfriend isn't around, I have to pony up and put on my big girl pants and go out myself. So I definitely say living alone has made me more independent. Another thing that kinda sucks is the fact that I have exactly 0 friends in this town. Not that I had many or any in my old town, but I had a few that I'd hang out with sometimes, but here I know no one. So it really kind of sucks having no girlfriends to hang out with or go places with. I think being here would be much easier for me if at least I knew some people, but unfortunately it's really hard for me to go out and just find another 20-year-old with the same interests as me because I wouldn't even know where to look. So for now I'm friendless. Now, of course, living alone isn't all bad. Eventually, I learned to be way more independent, and I'm totally cool going and doing my errands alone, or going to do whatever I need to do alone if I have to. I even got a tattoo by myself in a really sketchy tattoo parlor that it probably wasn't a good idea to go alone, but I did it. Of course, I prefer to have company, but don't we all? I think that having an entire space to myself is nice because I can do whatever I want when I want. Living alone now, I definitely can say that I'd never want to live with a roommate, unless it was with my boyfriend, because I'm pretty much a shut-in and somewhat antisocial. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy the company of friends or desire having friends, of course. I'm also definitely an introvert. I think if I had started off with a roommate and then moved out on my own, I could have had a nice experience of both. I'm definitely sad I'll never experience it because I believe a situation like Tuca and Birdie, definitely shout out to that show, it's great, would be a cool situation. To have a close female friend you can live with and get into all kinds of shenanigans with. But now that I've experienced wandering around my house in my PJs all day, I don't think I could live in a situation where I'd feel awkward wearing pajamas or not getting dressed or leaving the house for 3 days. Being on your own is definitely liberating, but it can be pretty scary. I've never really dealt with paying bills, renter's insurance, or owning my own furniture, but here I am. I think it's pretty cool that I'm independent at 20. I'm 20 at the time of making this video. Happy late birthday to me. Bills are a scary and annoying thing, I must say, and my rent is much higher than it should be for where I live in my town, and just the apartment itself, but c'est la vie. If you're thinking about moving out on your own, let me give you some tips. Don't move out anywhere to where you know absolutely no one. I, of course, have my boyfriend and my 2 pets, so I'm definitely not totally alone. But if I moved somewhere just into the middle of nowhere where I'd known no one and had no human interaction, I'd probably have lost my mind. Make sure you save up. YouTube isn't a reliable job if you're in a position that I'm in. I'm actually job hunting so I can ensure that I can pay rent every month. Speaking of which, I do have commissions open and a Patreon, links in the description. Thank you. Make sure you make enough with whatever job you're doing to pay your rent plus $300 or more depending on where you live for utilities, bills, and food bills. Don't move somewhere expensive. I live somewhere super cheap so I can have a nice enough place for not a ridiculous amount of rent. I see all these young YouTubers moving to LA then saying they're broke and having to move back to wherever they came from. That's why you move somewhere cheap first. Save up and then move wherever you want, so you have the money. Lock your doors. It seems simple, but listen, there's a lot of break-ins and bad people almost always target women that live alone. So if you're like me, a woman that lives alone, you've always got to double check your doors to make sure you're safe inside your own place. Even go as far as installing a security system if you feel you need to, especially if you live in a house, even if you're not alone. Break-ins are much more common on first-floor apartments and houses. Take care of yourself. If you're like me and massively lazy and would much rather eat out than bother to cook, I've been earnestly trying to get better at cooking my meals instead of being a lazy and spending my money on food. Cooking eggs is super easy and simple, and it's getting something nutritious into your body, and not to mention grocery shopping is a way to save money in the long term, because you will have meals for days. Also, if you're apartment hunting, make sure you get all the information about the lease and what utilities your landlord will pay for, because I know that some landlords will pay for water and trash, and some landlords will even pay for electricity and cable. It depends on the place you go to. The one I'm in right now pays for water and trash, and I pay for everything else, and the apartments I'm moving into, oh yes, I'm moving, don't pay for anything except trash. So keep your eye out for places that will pay for more utilities, especially if you're moving into an apartment, because that way you can save money, but sometimes they'll just up the rent if they're paying utilities. Like my place pays water, and I pay way more money than I should for a place like this, but c'est la vie. I apologize if you can hear screaming kids in the background. I live right next to the pool at my apartment complex, and people don't know how to not yell, apparently. Oh my god, shut the f up. Anyway, some more tips for you. I know personally that resisting the urge to be a total slob is probably a good idea. Like, if you live in filth, your life is gonna be filth. Your space reflects your mindset. So if you live in a mess, you're gonna feel a mess and you're gonna act a mess. Like, I know for me personally, I get upset and kind of like in a mood when I leave my apartment nasty. So I always make an effort to try to keep it as clean as I can within reason. Another tip is get used to being with yourself and yourself only. It's hard to be alone with yourself when you're someone like me. Lots of self-hatred. Relatable. Obviously, being alone isn't, great if you just get in your own head and think about how much you suck all the time. But eventually, you've got to learn to be okay with yourself. You're gonna have to just eventually come to terms with yourself and how you are. I know for me, decorating was one of the things that I enjoyed the most. My apartment it's not great, like I've said, but I personally like the way it looks, and if you have your own space, you can do whatever you want within reason. Of course, remember that you don't own, so you can't customize it all the way. Like, you can't add a bedroom. And also, learning some handy skills is probably a good idea. For me, my toilet likes to break and stop working. So I had to learn how to kind of fix it myself without having to bother the apartment 24/7 or at 5 a.m. when I need to use the bathroom. So make sure you have a toolbox on hand in your apartment as well, just in case. And obviously, have an emergency kit ready to go for emergencies depending on which area you live in or where you live or what kind of natural disasters happen there, or etc. Like, I live in Tornado Alley, like I said in my last video. I stupidly don't have an emergency kit for tornadoes, but I'm probably going to get one because I'm terrified of them. Oh, and keep a fire extinguisher around if you have one. Probably for the best. I almost set my oven on fire quite a few times because I'm an idiot. Oh, and make sure, of course, you have medicine. That's one thing I keep forgetting to buy. Band-aids, they're important, especially when you're like me and you cut yourself shaving all the time. And probably a good idea is to keep a lot of sick food, you know what I mean? Like soup and crackers around. I know I have a stock of Campbell's is gross, but I have a stock of Campbell's in my kitchen, because I'm the type of person who gets sick all the time. I also suggest a calendar or something on your refrigerator to write down what you need to do and what you need to remember to do, because I'm the kind of person who will just forget. I'd forget to breathe if it wasn't automatic. So a calendar right next to my computer really helps me remember, hey, you have to do this today, instead of not doing it and forgetting like an idiot. Another tip is try to find reasons to leave your apartment. If you're like me and you know nobody except one person, and you're just kind of alone with your dog and your cat, then leaving the house isn't exactly something you're gonna want to do. Like I said, I was scared, very scared, especially to go out by myself, but I found that when I keep pepper spray on myself just for security, nothing has ever happened to me, but like I say, for security purposes, just in case, especially in this town, and especially as a woman alone, especially outside. I like to go on walks, and that's something simple, fun, entertaining you can do. It helps me feel better, gives me energy. Like, that doesn't require anyone else, That doesn't require interacting with people if you're like me and you're kind of scared of everybody else. You can just go on a walk. You can also look into group activities. I know most towns have, planned activities that you can go to. Like I know that my town has, I think, a D&D group for someone like me. If you're interested in that sort of thing, just look around and you can usually find it on your town's website. They'll have listed activities for what they're gonna do. Usually it's like kids stuff, but sometimes you can find stuff for adults depending on where you live. Anyway, apartment hunting is super stressful and difficult, but if you know where to look and you know what you're looking for, it can work out. It does work out. It's just, it sucks. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you're thinking of moving out or already have moved out, I wish you luck. Comment your living alone experiences below. I will read them for sure. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.